Imagine being one of the most electrifying players in hockey history, a man whose shot could rip past goalies before they even flinched. A superstar adored by millions, locked into a $100 million contract, the kind of money that secures not just your future, but generations of your family. And then walking away. That's exactly what Ilya Kovalchuk did. In the summer of 2013, he stunned the hockey world by retiring from the NHL at just 30 years old, abandoning one of the richest contracts in league history and leaving the New Jersey Devils scrambling. He left behind over $77 million in guaranteed salary, gone in an instant. Fans called it betrayal. Russian newspapers called it patriotism. But why would a man at the peak of his career, with money, fame, and everything he could dream of, walk away from the NHL? And trust me, you will be shocked when we reveal what happened to him at the very end of this story. The rise of a superstar. Ilya Kovalchuk's story begins in Tver, Russia, where he was born in 1983. From the moment he picked up a stick, his gift was undeniable. His father, Valery, was a former basketball player who believed discipline was everything, and his mother, Lyubov, pushed him to pursue sports relentlessly. Kovalchuk wasn't just talented, he was driven. As a teenager, he dominated junior leagues in Russia, standing out with blazing speed and a lethal shot that scouts described as unfair. By the late 1990s, NHL franchises were circling, desperate to grab him before someone else did. In 2001, the Atlanta Thrashers, one of the NHL's youngest and weakest franchises, made him the first overall pick in the draft. For a team struggling to stay relevant in a non-hockey market, Kovalchuk wasn't just another player, he was the future. He didn't disappoint. In his rookie season, Kovalchuk scored 29 goals. Even though injuries limited him to 65 games, he immediately showed flashes of brilliance. His skating was explosive, his stick handling electric, and his wrist shot was lethal. Fans in Atlanta, a city hardly known for hockey passion, suddenly had a reason to fill the stands. Over the next few seasons, Kovalchuk evolved from exciting rookie to bona fide superstar. By 2004, he was co-winner of the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy, awarded to the league's top goal scorer, after putting up an incredible 41 goals. Night after night, Kovalchuk was the only reason the Thrashers had a chance. He had multiple 40-goal seasons, and by 2008, he topped the 50-goal mark. His celebrations were fiery, his personality magnetic, and his play style was a blend of Russian finesse with North American grit. But while Kovalchuk soared, the Thrashers sank. Year after year, Atlanta failed to build a competitive roster around him. They made the playoffs just once in his tenure, in 2007, and were swept in 4 games. The excitement Kovalchuk brought was real, but frustration was building. By 2010, after nearly a decade of carrying Atlanta on his back, he wanted out. He wanted to win. The blockbuster trade. In February 2010, the Thrashers finally pulled the trigger, trading Kovalchuk to the New Jersey Devils. For the Devils, a franchise with 3 Stanley Cups in the previous 15 years, this was a statement. They weren't just clinging to past glory. They were going all in for the future. Kovalchuk made an immediate impact. His dynamic scoring ability gave the Devils a weapon they hadn't had in years. Fans embraced him, and for the first time in a long time, the Devils looked like a team that could go deep in the playoffs. But it wasn't just his play that made headlines, it was his contract, the mega contract controversy. In July 2010, the Devils signed Kovalchuk to an unprecedented 17-year, $102 million contract. At the time, it was the longest deal in NHL history. The structure heavily front-loaded his salary, paying him tens of millions in the early years and far less in the later ones. It was a clever way to reduce the annual salary cap hit while guaranteeing Kovalchuk his fortune. But the NHL wasn't amused. The league immediately voided the contract, calling it a blatant attempt to circumvent the salary cap rules. For weeks, the Devils and the league were locked in a battle. The story dominated headlines. Finally, after renegotiation, the deal was restructured to 15 years, $100 million, and approved. It was still enormous. The Devils had made a long-term marriage with Kovalchuk, betting their future entirely on him. For the fans, it felt like a commitment to greatness. For the league, it set a precedent. And for Kovalchuk, it was supposed to be security for life. But within just 3 years, it would all collapse. But the shocking decision. In 2012, Kovalchuk proved his worth. He led the Devils on an improbable run to the Stanley Cup Final. Despite battling injuries, he logged massive ice time and still managed 19 points in the playoffs. He was hailed as a warrior, the centerpiece of the franchise. But then came the summer of 2013. Out of nowhere, the Devils called a press conference. In a quiet, almost surreal announcement, they revealed the news. Ilya Kovalchuk was retiring from the NHL. At just 30 years old, with 12 years left on his contract, with over $77 million in guaranteed salary still on the table. The hockey world was stunned. Fans were speechless. Analysts scrambled to explain. How could one of the best players in the world walk away in his prime? And here's the question that still haunts the NHL today. Was Kovalchuk's shocking exit just about money? Or was there something much bigger driving him back to Russia? Back to Russia. The truth came fast. Within days of his retirement, Kovalchuk signed with SKA St. Petersburg of the Continental Hockey League, KHL. The financial aspect was obvious. In Russia, he could make tax-free money, often equaling or surpassing his NHL salary. Reports suggested he would earn upwards of $20 million over just a few seasons, a staggering sum when combined with endorsements and national team bonuses. But money wasn't the only factor. In Russia, Kovalchuk was a superstar of a different level. He was treated like royalty, cheered as a national hero, celebrated for choosing home over the foreign NHL. The reactions could not have been more different across the two continents. In New Jersey, fans felt betrayed. Newspapers ran headlines like "Kovalchuk quits" and "The $100 million man who walked away." Angry callers flooded sports radio, calling him a coward and a traitor. Some fans burned his jerseys in protest. But in Russia, he was hailed as a patriot. Newspapers declared Kovalchuk comes home. Crowds packed arenas just to watch him play. He became the face of the KHL, helping to legitimize the league as a true rival to the NHL. For many Russians, it wasn't betrayal, it was loyalty. The fallout. For the Devils, Kovalchuk's exit was devastating. The franchise had built its future around him, and suddenly, everything crumbled. To make matters worse, the NHL imposed harsh penalties for the original contract dispute, fining the team $3 million and stripping away valuable draft picks. The combination of losing Kovalchuk and facing sanctions sent the Devils spiraling into years of mediocrity. The fan base, once loyal and passionate, was fractured. Some swore never to forgive him. Around the league, debates raged. Some analysts argued Kovalchuk had every right to leave. Others accused him of abandoning his team and ruining his legacy. But one fact was clear. No player of his caliber had ever left the NHL like this before. The attempted comeback. For years, rumors swirled about a possible return. Would Kovalchuk ever come back to finish what he started? In 2018, the whispers became reality. After dominating in the KHL and winning Olympic gold with Russia in Pyeongchang, Kovalchuk signed with the Los Angeles Kings. At first, excitement buzzed. Could the sniper who once terrified goalies reclaim his throne? The answer was disappointing. At 35, Kovalchuk was slower, less explosive, and unable to dominate like before. His time in Los Angeles was rocky, marred by poor chemistry and disagreements with coaches. After just 2 seasons, he was gone. He bounced briefly to Montreal and then Washington, but the spark was gone. The comeback had fizzled. By 2021, Kovalchuk's NHL career was over for good. The legacy debate. So how should we remember Ilya Kovalchuk? On one hand, he was one of the most gifted goal scorers of his generation. Over 400 NHL goals, 2 50-goal seasons, countless highlight reels, and a presence that electrified fans around the world. In the KHL, he became a legend, winning championships and cementing his place in Russian hockey history. On the other hand, his shocking exit from the NHL left a scar. The Devils never recovered from his departure. His contract became infamous, his legacy in New Jersey forever stained by bitterness and betrayal. Some argue he tarnished his name in North America. Others say he lived life on his own terms, proving he cared more about family, homeland, and freedom than contracts or foreign approval. Was he selfish, or was he brave? Did he betray his team, or did he simply choose what was right for him? The debate is endless. Some say Kovalchuk's exit was betrayal. Others see it as patriotism. But no matter which side you stand on, one thing is undeniable. His decision will forever remain one of the most shocking exits in NHL history. And here's the twist. Despite leaving $77 million on the table, despite the outrage in North America, Ilya Kovalchuk is still celebrated in Russia as a hero. To this day, he's proof that sometimes the biggest moves in sports aren't about the game, they're about life. So what do you think? Was Ilya Kovalchuk right to walk away from the NHL? Or did he betray his legacy and his team? Let us know in the comments, because this debate is far from over.